The burden of obligation. Obligation can be a tricky beast when left untamed. Obligation of society, obligation of culture, obligation of relationships. The list goes on and on. It's a sort of trap. It's just another trick in the illusion to keep us at lower energetic frequencies, to keep us at lower vibrations, because through these obligations, societal, cultural, relationship, we end up a lot of times doing lower vibrational things, eating lower vibrational foods, acting out in lower vibrational activities because we feel a sense of obligation to do it, even though inside of us we might feel some sort of incorrectness about the match between our energy and the situation, this obligation we're acting out. So how do we break free from the trap of obligation? We feel, ooh, I gotta go to the bar for this birthday party because I feel obligated, but I really don't want to be around alcohol or that kind of low energy. I just don't want to be around it. What do? Why do you have that sense of obligation? Why do we feel the need to please anybody? Is it a need to fit in? Is it a need to please? Right? We just want to fit in with society. What are we fitting in with? We're fitting in with a low energetic program that's designed to be low, to keep us low, to keep humanity suppressed. So the obligations we're playing out are actually part of a lower societal and cultural program they're trying to keep us at some of the times, right? They want you to feel like you have to do something to fit in. They want you to feel like you have to eat the foods everybody else is eating that they see in the TV commercials to fit in. And what happens when we eat those? They keep us at lower energetic levels. They keep our bodies suppressed. They keep our consciousness suppressed. One of the number one suppressors of consciousness, I made a video on this a while ago, is food. That through obligations, through cultural obligations, at Thanksgiving, I have to eat all these foods. What did I eat at Thanksgiving? A bunch of fruit. I've broken free from this hold obligations had on me, this mental hold, almost all of my life. Now, I've released that from myself because I don't feel these obligations to do anything. You don't have to take part in someone else's play. And remember, no matter what you do, it was what you were always going to do. So why is it important that we recognize this grip obligation can have on us and its effect? Because it's going to keep us at lower energetic levels. If we want to pull ourselves away from the illusion more and more and gain higher and higher perspectives, we're going to have to let go some of these obligational things we've been partaking in during our lives. Because to get into the constant, or as much as you can, state of presence, we have to remove aggravators. I made a whole video about the aggravators. I'll explain it briefly here. Aggravators are things that purposely aggravate your state, your energetic state, your mental state, your thoughts, especially your physical state, to keep us all out of shape. We have to remove these things to be able to get rid of obligation, and that's what I was working on, removing the aggravators. We have to get balance, right? Because we're going to be stuck in these cultural obligations. They always have us eating these certain foods, and it's not healthy most of the time. It's going to keep us stuck. So we have to break free from the feeling of needing to do anything. Why do we have to do anything? We don't have to partake in that one. A hard one is giving and receiving gifts. People feel like they're obligated to spend money at certain holidays, things like this. These are all obligations that keep us at lower levels. This is the burden of obligation. So how do we break free from obligation? Presence and purification always comes back to the same foundational things. We remove the aggravators. We recognize and remove the things that are aggravating our balance and our state of peace. And we have to remove these things because we want to facilitate a peaceful state. And to facilitate a peaceful state that will allow us to shed these things like the shame and guilt and regret and obligation added to the list, right? We have to facilitate a peaceful state, and we have to start stepping in to the observer, being the observer, and not attaching ourselves with these things, and coming into higher perspectives and taking a perspective, a life-changing perspective of, I am just nature running off. I am just karma running off. So I don't need to attach myself to these things, right? This is all part of facilitating a peaceful state, a peaceful mind. Like, how do we get the mind in such a state where it is naturally restful and peaceful, and not always aggravated or thinking? You're going through these cycles of thought. How do we do that? How do we create a peaceful state? Because this is how we achieve balance and take care of all of these things that keep us attached and keep us at lower levels and keep us in a trap. Well, how do we facilitate this? A peaceful state? We got to remove the aggravators, which we talked about before. Things that purposely aggravate you, because that's preventing presence. And we got to remove and recognize all of the other things that can pull us out of balance. And obligations can be one of them. Obligation, because we do things because we feel obligated, but it brings us down. It brings our energy down, especially if you have to be around people that are lower energy, and you got to protect your energy. Obligations of relationships, just because people are related, they think they have an obligation to spend time with people, their relatives, when their relatives don't treat them well and are very low energy. At some point in our journey, we will be able to handle all this more easily, without being affected. But out of a lot of our places in our journey, we have to protect our energy, to work on ourselves, to allow the most energy to be put toward ascending our consciousness and purifying these bodies and staying present. It all comes back to the same thing, no matter where you start. It's so wild. It's so wild. You start on the burden of obligation, and we get to, how do we remove this big boulder that's sitting on us. It's the boulder, the burden of obligation. How do we remove that? And that's how we do it. It's always balance, purification, presence. This is the foundation of all of these things. And all of these things we talk about are traps. They're mental ego traps. And they take these, they know what they do to us. The controllers, the ones who are energetically enslaving us, anyway, whatever you want to call them, they take these traps and they work them up real nice and big, and they get them all over us, and they just have them just envelop us in these traps, and they program them in us, so we feel like it's a part of us. We feel like this obligation's a part of us. It's so hard to break free from, but we can do it. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Thank you for joining me, my friends. Namaste.